I was walking at 10 p.m. at night. I was in a park that had a forest trail with some friends to ghost hunt. We were a group of about 10 people. Anyway, I kept hearing footsteps behind me, but nobody was there. I was in the back of the group since no one wanted to be there, human shields and all. So I was more in the open, trailing behind a bit with a partner, when out of nowhere, I heard a loud, blood-curdling scream. Sounded like a girl screaming bloody murder. It surprised me because I didn't expect it and I jumped on the spot. I glanced at the scaredy cat of the group, no reaction. Glanced at my partner, no reaction. So I just shook it off, but then I heard children laughing and more footsteps away from us, in the direction I heard the scream. Nobody was there. After that, we reached a dead end, turned back, and left the trail. I asked my friends if they heard the scream, and they all gave me a blank look. "What scream?" one of them asked. So I told them and confirmed no one else heard it. A few years later, I decided to look up the park, and it turns out a girl was shot and killed in that park. Also, there have been reports of other people hearing children at night as well, even though there are no children outside past curfew.
Trick or treat! Trick or treat!
A Halloween tradition turns a popular phrase on its head. Don't take candy from a stranger. On this night, children run door to door to collect that sugary treasure, only for their parents to invoke another Halloween tradition, checking the Halloween candy. Parents sort through the night's loot, keeping an eye out for hidden razor blades, tempered wrappers, and their favorite chocolate. Where did this myth of tempered candy come from? Has there ever been a deadly case connected to Halloween candy? There have been many pranks of homeowners putting an edible item in the bags of visiting children, including dog treats, laxatives, and even ant traps. But one trick-or-treater met an unfortunate end after one tragic Halloween night. 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien was out trick-or-treating in 1974 with his sister, his father Ronald Clark O'Brien, and a family from a neighboring house. They lived in Deer Park, Texas, but decided to trick-or-treat in neighboring Pasadena, Texas. They soon came to a house where the occupant didn't answer. The children got impatient and went on to the next house. Timothy's dad hung back. He would later meet up with the family, revealing that the owner of the house answered the door soon after they left. He gave them each a pixie stick, saving one for one of the children in the neighborhood. The night concluded and everyone went their separate ways. And just before bed, little Timothy O'Brien asked for one piece of candy and chose the pixie stick. First, he complained about the taste, that it was not sweet but bitter. Then he washed it down with some Kool-Aid. After, he started complaining of a stomachache and ran to the bathroom and began vomiting and convulsing in his father's arms. He died on the way to the hospital. Tests showed that the pixie stick was tainted with cyanide. The little boy was poisoned. But the most horrifying fact is that Timothy's father, Ronald Clark O'Brien, was the guilty party. He would confess to poisoning his son to cash in on his life insurance money. Guess it's true what they say. Monsters really do come out on Halloween.
This happened about 20 years ago when I was 15. My parents were divorced and by this time had a pretty good relationship. Their parenting styles were night and day though. My dad was a strict military man while my mom was an easygoing, good-time Charlie. At this time they were splitting custody of me 7 days on and 7 days off. My mom worked double shifts 6 days a week. She was only home on Sunday nights. Because of this and the fact that my mom was so lax with rules, she allowed me pretty much do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. In the very few instances she would say no, I would still do what I wanted because there are pretty much zero consequences. At this time, my boyfriend lived about a mile from my mom, so needless to say, I couldn't wait until it was my mom's week. While at my mom's, I would sneak over to my boyfriend's house after his parents went to sleep. He was an only child and his parents were pretty strict like my dad, and did not allow us to spend much time together outside of school. As soon as his parents would go to bed, I would leave my house, say around 9:30, 10 p.m., and jog over to his house. We would hang out until 1:30 a.m., and I would leave for my early morning jog home. During my jogs, I would make sure to stay super vigilant. After all, I was a 15-year-old female jogging in the dark. Nobody knew where I was, and this was before cell phones were a thing. I'm about a half a block from home and able to see my mom's apartment building. As I continue jogging, I was passing the end of a driveway and this van pulls out of nowhere and stops right in front of me. I didn't even see it coming. No spidey sense, nothing. I stopped so abruptly, I almost tripped face first into the passenger side door. When I looked up, I saw two older men in the front seat with their windows rolled down, staring at me. It was a slow gaze, and I could feel their eyes burning into every inch of my body. The passenger leaned out the window, getting as close to me as he could without opening the door, and asked if I wanted a ride. He then smiled the most sinister smile I had ever seen. While staring into his dark eyes, everything else faded away. It was like they were the only thing that existed at this point in time. My vision zoomed in on them, and I could feel my flight or fight kick in. I quickly ran in the direction they came from. I knew the alley they pulled out from was too narrow for their van to make a turn. They had to pull out into the street and make a U-turn. I had never run so fast in my life.
I knew I didn't have enough time to make it to my mom's building before they came back, so I ran to the closest building and hid behind a large trash can. My heart was beating, and I was covering my mouth to muffle my breathing and silence my cries. I could hear the rocks in the loose asphalt being crushed by the tires as they slowly crept by the trash can. They stopped in front of it for what felt like an eternity and whispered something to each other I couldn't make out. They didn't get out but kept moving forward slowly, stopping by each of the other buildings' trash cans. I waited until they were out of sight and bolted the rest of the way home and locked the door. That was the last time I ever jogged to my boyfriend's house. To the two creeps who tried to pick me up and do God knows what to me, let's not meet. It's that time of year when you feel a chill in the air and the leaves begin to change color. Halloween is finally here. My favorite part of Halloween is seeing all the decorations around my neighborhood. Some of our neighbors take it a little too extreme, using Hollywood movie quality props with animatronics. But some decorations are a little too lifelike. Or should I say, dead-like. As recent as 2015, an Ohio woman was found beaten brutally, propped up on a fence, initially mistaken to be a gruesome Halloween display. There's also the 2014 case of a 75-year-old California man who suffered a gunshot wound to the eye and was left slumped over in a pool of blood for 5 days. Lest we not forget the poor haunted hayride employee who tragically hanged himself in a stunt. 17-year-old Brian Jewell was a performer in the gallows scene at the haunted hayride in Lakewood, New Jersey. He would perform a stunt where he would simulate being hanged, only to have the stunt go horribly wrong. Brian suffocated as his feet were able to touch the ground, a horrifying way to die. Brian was later rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. No charges were brought against the haunted hayride. Next year, when the whole world reopens, I'll definitely keep an eye on the decorations. So this happened about 7 or 8 years ago. My husband and I were laying in bed one night watching television. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a child in the doorway of our bedroom. Thinking it was our only son at the time, I tapped my husband and said, "Shh, I think Connor is going to scare us." He turned to look, and this child walked into our bedroom. I can't explain it. It was one of those moments that seemed somehow different. We watched in silence, soon realizing that this child was not our son. He toddled in, head slightly tilted back, curls bouncing and diapers squishing as he got to the end of our bed. We saw his head go down, like he was crouching, and when we got up to look, he was gone. I looked at Chris, my husband, and said, "Did we just see a ghost?" Then, almost as an afterthought, I said, "Well, we know if we have another baby, and he has curls, that he was here before he was born." We both laughed. We weren't trying to have a baby at the time. We go to check on our son, and he was fast asleep. Fast forward a few months later, I'm pregnant. Surprise. We have our new baby, Liam. Fast forward, Liam is 2, and he toddles in the room. Head tilted slightly back and curls bouncing. And then it hit me like a bucket of ice water. Holy crap, this is the baby that came to visit us. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind. Now, on top of that, whenever Liam is staying the night elsewhere, like with my parents, one time he came and just smiled at me while I was taking a nap. He was in a little red shirt and his hair was cut short. He left with it long. The next day I go to pick up the kiddos from my mom, and lo and behold, his hair is freshly short and he's wearing a little red shirt. I asked my mom, "Did he wear this yesterday?" And she replied, "Oh yes, he did, but he insisted on wearing it today, so he is." So I looked at him and said, "Did you go see Mama yesterday in Mama's dreams?" He just looked at me. He was 4. All big blue eyes and serious, and nodded his head. So that's my glitch in the Matrix story. One of many, but the most profound. Our son, I guess, travels astral and even stopped to see us before he was born. I would know those curls anywhere. The fact that my husband witnessed it with me makes it even more weird, but utterly fascinating. Thanks for reading. Edit. Just another fun fact. He was born on All Hallows Eve. Maybe he chose that too.